Hello and happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And ladies and gentlemen, for the next 70-ish minutes, get ready. We are talking Xbox, and man, there is a lot to get into. We're talking two massive stories, one of which comes the way of our good friend, Jez Corden of Windows Central, who was talking on the Xbox 2 plus one minus one plus two. Of course, that's the episode that he was on the other day where he was talking about State of Decay 3 and when we can expect it. That's going to be the opening salvo for today's show. Got some thoughts, got some theories into why it's happening for 2026 and not 2025, but talk about an absolute roles reversal with excitement for an Xbox game. That's right. Everyone, and I mean everyone, is talking up Indiana Jones in one way or another, whether it's Games Radar or Jez Cord of Windows Central or IGN, you name it, they've been talking about it. And more specifically, Digital Foundry has named two Xbox games as the greatest looking achievements in graphical prowess for 2024. That's right. Indiana Jones gets the number one spot, and Hellblade 2 gets the number two spot. Wait a second. Are we in Bizarro land? People are talking and loving Xbox? This is just pure madness. Soon cats are going to be hanging out with dogs. This is crazy. But listen, we're going to talk about it. We're here to have fun. It's obviously a day before New Year's Eve. There will be, folks, a show tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Xbox Factor 2 podcast with Infinite Umbra and Jamie Moran will be going on. We have some topics to get into that we're not covering here today. And of course, that evening we'll be welcoming in 2025. And boy, oh boy, it is going to be a 2025 for gamers, but more specifically, Xbox gamers. But first, Fuzzy Belvedere, how are you, brother? How was your weekend?
Oh, I'm doing great. Glad to be here with you. Man, just it's always good to see when Xbox is doing well and others recognize it. But
It's
yeah,
nice.
Digital
It's
Foundries.
a change up, right?
Oh yeah. Like with Digital Foundries, like the key thing is even one of their Xbox's partner titles, with Stalker 2 got an honorable mention. Yeah, I can
Yes.
understand with some of the bugs, it didn't make it into the top 10, but that's still a long way considering what those guys were going through while developing that game. But to have it come down to Hellblade 2 and Indiana Jones, man, it just seems like the Game Awards may have missed out on the conversation with not including Indiana Jones. But we'll see what they do next year. But man, it's a great day. A lot of good news on the forefront and a lot of good news over this weekend. I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular when you see. I mean, again, it's we have a lot of articles that we're going to be covering that we're going to be name dropping, kind of just to kind of paint this picture of Xbox turning the corner. Again, this is a far removed Xbox from a couple of years ago where they couldn't seem to get it right. And this year, and I look, like I said, you've heard me say this before. Anyone that tries to tell you that 2023 was a bad year for Xbox, they're just not gamers. I'm sorry, they're just not. They had a strong lineup, and I don't care what anyone tries to paint or tries to tell you. Starfield was, and will always be an amazing game. That's a game that's going to be played 10 years from now, and it's going to have numerous updates, going to have numerous DLCs, and heck, they're working on, and I say they, Bethesda's working on a multiplayer game. I have a strong suspicion that, like Fallout 76 and like the Elder Scrolls Online, you could potentially see a Starfield multiplayer game or an MMO, and it just makes perfect sense. And then when that happens, not if, folks, when that happens, that's going to be something. That is definitely going to be something. But listen, The opening salvo I want to talk about, and of course, I want to give credit where credit is due. The story was dropped into my DM. Quite a few people dropped it in, but it was originally posted at thegamer.com. Now, who wrote this story? Well, let me just get that for you right now. It was by George Forster. This was posted 2 days ago. And of course, it says the lead title Xbox Insider, Jez Corden, says State of Decay 3's release could slip from 2025 to 2026. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I did not think that this game was, of course, releasing in 2025. That's just my hot take.
Mhm.
Fuzzy Belvedere. It's coming in 2026. And according, again, I will link the Xbox 2 plus 1 minus 1 plus 2. That's what it's called. It's pretty ridiculous, but funny. It is. I'll link that in the show notes. So if you want to watch that episode, that was led by Jez Corden of Windows Central. John from Xbox Era, of course, was on, as well as Insipid Ghost, Luke from the Xbox Expansion Pass.
Mhm.
Yes, of course, I love to see Luke doing his thing. He's a phenomenal human, but he's a fantastic podcaster, as well as John. And well, John, we all know John from Xbox Era. No need to further talk about it, but they were talking. Well, they talked about a lot of things, but what we're covering here, Fuzzy Belvedere, is what Jez Corden had to say about State of Decay 3. Now, he says this, and I quote, I did hear as well that they were considering State of Decay 3 for 2025 as well. It's closer to being finished than you would think, but I think they're going to let that one slip until 2026. I would bet money that that it becomes a 2026 game like early 2026. Jez Corden of Windows Central, and of course the Xbox 2 podcast. So this is one of those situations, Fuzzy Belvedere, that we're starting to see the first party buildup is starting to become incredible. Like, I know that a lot of people push back on the video that I did the other day about expecting these 9 games. Gears of War E-Day being one of them. Obviously, Oblivion has yet to be announced, but is rumored to be showing up at this, quote unquote, rumored, Xbox Direct 3rd week into January. That is the rumor, right? And there's another one in there, but the other ones all have been announced for 2025. This one wasn't one of those games. And I kind of expected that because they already have a ridiculous, an outrageous amount of games coming out. And that's just first party. So by this slipping to 2026, you know what this kind of does say to me as an Xbox fan? Xbox has too many games, dude. Like, it is pretty incredible that if you kind of just think about. I mean, again, folks, let's just walk with me on this, everyone. We go back to 2023, right? And 2023 was a pretty damn good year for Xbox, right? Now, maybe you didn't play every game, but it was a pretty good year nonetheless. And now we move into this year, 2024. Started out a bit slow, first party. Obviously, we did not get Hellblade 2, which we're going to talk about in the later half of the show, until May. And then we had a bunch of smaller titles in the form of RTS type of games that are not so much for me, but, well, they're still something special for a lot of people. A lot of people enjoy a lot of the games that came out this year. And then they bookend the year in December with Indiana Jones. I mean, an amazing year. And again, we're going to get into more specifics with Indiana Jones and Hellblade 2 second half of the show. But what's been painted for us for 2025, even if 6 of the 9 games release, those are 6 monster-sized first-party games. And we did hear Matt Booty say last year that that's not everything that they have talked about. There are still things that people don't know about that are expected, two of them, as a matter of fact, to release this year. Is that Gears of War E-Day? I don't know. Is that Oblivion remake? Possibly. Right? But now we're on this path that they literally have so many games that they could say, hey, you know what, Undead Labs, keep polishing. We'll see you first quarter 26. And it just so happens, Fuzzy Belvedere, that in 2026, they have a new console coming out. They have a new handheld possibly coming out alongside of it. They have the 25th anniversary of the brand itself. We could see a new Halo. We could see a new Forza. I mean, talk about a reversal of fortunes.
Mhm.
PlayStation was the big, and they were kicking ass and taking names 2018, 2019, 2020. Some could even suggest 2021. But they have certainly fallen flat, and they have nothing. There is no roadmap. We're still waiting. I don't know about anyone else. Check your watch. Are you still waiting for that secret showcase? I think we're waiting 4 years at this point, because I don't know where it is, but it ain't been announced. And Xbox seems to be really just dropping bomb after bomb. Let's talk about State of Decay 3 getting pushed back into 2026 simply because already the roadmap for next year is just ridiculous.
Yeah, like we got a big surprise when it was the Game Awards with the whole Outer Worlds 2 being in 2025. Like, I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card at all, as far as it being that, fast of a turnaround, considering what was it, like the showcase 2 years ago, and they were like, yeah, we don't kind of know where we're at with this game, and it's going to be a while before it comes out. But they had a pretty kick-ass, trailer for that showcase a couple of years ago, and then to say, oh yeah, it's coming in 2025 and it's going to be about twice the size and whatnot. Yeah, that was a surprise. So State of Decay 3 even being considered in that slotting, I wasn't expecting it at all. Like, I know they just wrapped up their most recent update for State of Decay 2, and then it's the full team, all hands on deck as far as going on State of Decay 3. So I figured that was like at least a couple of years away. But I know that they've been working off and on in the background. They've been doing all the updates as far as when it comes to Unreal Engine 5 and working with that and stuff. But I didn't think it was a 2025 title. But the fact that they probably have so much lined up for 2025, which I've been telling people, we're not ready. Like, considering how they're going to probably have Obsidian bookend the year with Avowed in the beginning and possibly the Outer Worlds 2 at the end. State of Decay 3, it would be awesome to have it in 2025, but I don't think I'd have the time for it, considering how much time I've put into State of Decay 2 as of recent, and just all the games that we're going to be getting, RPGs and whatnot throughout the year. Yeah, I'm kind of glad that it's being bumped to 2026, and who knows, with that additional hardware or new next generation hardware potentially being unveiled that year, make for an awesome launch title or cross-gen title at that point. But yeah, that's just amazing that they have all of these studios working on like a lot of the titles that we know. Like we're starting to get stuff from Rare. They're starting to talk about celebrate the holidays, and we'll have more info for you next year on a title that's not Sea of Thieves. And everybody kind of knows it's Everwild, but it's like that's just one of dozens that we know are in the works. And like you said, there's probably a good handful of ones that we don't even have a slightest clue on. Like, I think Jez and Special Nick and a few others have mentioned that there's like new code name titles out there. Typically that's for games that aren't the ones they've already shown. So those are at least three new titles that's either potentially for this year or within the next year or 18 months, give or take. But yeah, Xbox is firing on all cylinders now. And I know some people are like, well, they got to do one per quarter. Like, we saw how this back end of the year went. I think we're ready, or we're in for a 2 per quarter range. And I'm not saying that all of them are going to be the big games, but it's probably going to be 2 per quarter. Plus, you're going to have some of your continuous updates and support for games out there. Like you're still going to get additional seasons on Halo. You're still going to get additional cars and events and things like that between Motorsport and Forza Horizon. You're still going to get updates for Gears. You're still going to get updates for pretty much all of their titles. Like even with Flight Sim and stuff like that.
Yep.
They just recently had the update with Diablo as far as the expansion. So, and for those that are playing World of Warcraft, they got expansions as well. So it's like there's no end in sight as far as games. Like I know everybody used to badmouth Xbox as far as, oh, they got no games. It's like I think they got all the games, and I don't think we got enough time for all the games. But looking at like PlayStation's roadmap, yeah, I'm excited for Ghost of Yotai. I'm looking forward to Intergalactic, but I don't think that's anytime soon. Maybe a couple of years out at best. But I'm really curious to see what Bethesda's online group is working on. Like they're already still supporting Fallout 76. We really want to see a Fallout 5 at some point, and who knows, maybe Obsidian does like an in-between to kind of cover some time in between. But in the grand scheme of things, like I would love to see a multiplayer Starfield. Like that would be Star Citizen on console at that point. Yep. Like the game is, I wouldn't say it's designed for it, but it would fit so nicely as far as being able to have your friends as an armada of ships, either as pirates or maybe the space police, whatever you want to do. You have the freedom to explore the galaxy at that point, and just the untold stories that you can build just from the randomness in that. I can't wait to see what that team is working on. So if it is a multiplayer Starfield, I'm hoping we get some word on that this year. Like you said, the remake for Oblivion, like that's going to be a big time sink for a lot of Elder Scroll fans, and to have it, like, if the rumors are correct in UE5, I mean, I don't think we're ready at this point. Like just the fact that State of Decay 3 is even being close to being talked about. Yes, I know we've seen a couple of trailers, but like I said, I always thought that was like a 2026 game at best. And yeah, now that it is 2026, I now have a better idea how I'm going to have to allocate my time with some of the first party games. But man, this roadmap is like unbelievable. And that second secret showcase that Sony was supposed to show sometime several years ago, it'd be nice if they finally deliver on that. But Xbox is going to keep me too occupied to even really care at this point. So I can't wait for State of Decay 3, man. That State of Decay 2, phenomenal game. Yes, I know it's not the graphic star of some of the other first party titles, but it's all about the fact that you can live out your, the Walking Dead village or your community simulator in that game. And that's the part that's just so awesome about it.
You know what people forget? And I was perusing the article. We got the State of Decay 3 announcement in 2020. Think about that for a second. We're rolling into 2024 in a day and a half. So by the time we get to next year, they've been working on this for quite a bit. Now, granted, I don't know how far along they were in 2020, but they were at a stage where they were comfortable about announcing it, and they announced it, and they've been working on it ever since. And now we know for a fact that the studio has potentially doubled in size, right? They've gotten a lot bigger than they originally were, which tells me that this is one of those all hands on deck, we got to get it done. And it's nice to know that that Xbox literally and their studios have so many games in development. They are stacked for so many years to come. There is literally no rush whatsoever to have to force them to get it out and get it done. And I think that is really a conversation that a lot of people don't have. Fuzzy Belvedere. I mean, look, again, Jez Corden heard that Microsoft wanted to put it out in 2025, and then they had decided that it's better suited for early 2026. That sounds to me that could be a February game, just like we're getting Avowed this year.
Mhm.
Well, in 2026, we could be getting Stave Decay 3 after a year that had all of the games Avowed, Oblivion, Fable, The Outer Worlds 2, Doom: The Dark Ages, South of Midnight. I mean, that's just to name a few.
Mhm.
That's just absolute first party madness.
Yeah.
And this is why I think when you say people aren't ready, I think you're onto something here, dude.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, we know of at least 5 or 6 titles that are slotted for 2025. We haven't seen the showcase yet, and we always know that they make some sort of surprise announcement that's probably going to still land that same year. Um, so we could see at least one, if not another 3 titles at the showcase that land this year. We know of a few project games that are kind of rumored to possibly land this year, like Contraband is a possibility as well. Um, Still haven't heard any updates on Project Dragon from IO Interactive, but there's just so much, and I still want to see this Wu Tang game that has been rumored in the background for a bit,
Yep.
and there's just it's unbelievable at this point. And like I said earlier, all of those first party studios, each one of them has I would say in most cases all of them have 2 teams, whether it's a team that does the continuous updates and support for the game after they launch a title, and then the other one's working on the next title, or 2 separate teams working on 2 separate titles. Like we're hearing, even like with Machine Games, they're going to have an Indiana Jones team and they're going to have a Wolfenstein team. So yeah, it's phenomenal now. And I know a lot of people are like, when's Xbox going to have the games? Well, patience definitely is one of those virtues that I'm glad we kind of waited to see. And yeah, it's going to get to the point where we're going to be like, all right, we need to hold off on some of these games. You're doing too much at this point. But yeah, it's just so much fun, hearing about these upcoming games for the year. And between 2025, 2024 was an awesome year for first party as far as Xbox is concerned. Yeah, I know some people don't really count the games like Aura and stuff like that, but there were plenty of titles that were day one in Game Pass. A lot of first party stuff, more heavily loaded on the back end. Even their second party partner deals and things like that we got. And I think this is just a inkling of what we can expect moving forward. Um, I know a lot of people are, they're mad at Xbox for their change in strategy, but given how many games they have, I don't think you're going to have time to worry about what other platforms are playing what, considering you're going to have at least probably a game every other month or one every month kind of thing coming from first party, or some sort of expansion or update from first party. So yeah, we're definitely going to have to clear that backlog a good bit.
Well, I will say this. It's interesting what you said a few moments ago. Aura, History Untold. Well, that doesn't count. It's funny that the goalpost with some people moves on a regular basis. These people must have terrible backs, because I don't know about you, but a goalpost is freaking heavy. So you keep moving it, I'd say you're gonna have some back problems for sure.
Yeah.
And of course, the back problems will will be consistent, because of course the mental gymnastics that people are trying to do in order to prove Xbox being a failure and not being it is hilarious. But needless to say, this was a great opening salvo. Again, Stave Decay 3, thanks to Jez Corden of Windows Central, and more specifically the Xbox 2 podcast, which I will link in the show notes so you can watch yourself, did of course confirm or give his opinion on Stave Decay 3 potentially skipping 2025, getting an early 2026 release. And you know what? It does make sense, especially when you consider how many games are coming out next year. And not just from Xbox. Like, Xbox is loaded for sure, but third party is going to be there. Indies are going to be there, and a bunch of second party stuff, especially in Game Pass. I mean, there really isn't going to be any time, especially if you're playing games from this year or, from 2023. So like Fuzzy said, if you are still playing games or you have a backlog, and we all do, you're going to want to kind of clear that up, because it is going to be a smorgasbord, if you will, of games in 2025. And Xbox is definitely leading the charge. But listen, I want to get into the second half of the show. I want to welcome in. We have almost 500 people already here watching live. A big thank you to everyone that has tuned in. This has been one heck of a 2024 for me and Mrs. Boom regarding Double Barrel Gaming. And that's all thanks to you fine folks. You tune in. We do the show 5 days a week. We're very consistent with the content. We very rarely take a day off. And we definitely appreciate the consistent views and shares. We're almost at the halfway mark at 16.5. And of course, 15.5. So of course we want to get to get to the magic 16 and eventually 20, 25. And who knows, maybe one day we'll even hit 100,000 subscribers. That would be something. But needless to say, we are here because of you fine folks. So thank you so much for supporting the channel, whether it be through Super Chat, whether it be through channel membership, or just watching the show. We greatly appreciate it, because, again, this has been an excellent and a very satisfying 2024, and we're looking forward to what's going to happen next year. But, Fuzzy Belvedere, we got to get into the second topic. Now, again, I do have breaking news regarding Indiana Jones and its confirmed trilogy. And I can say the word confirmed because, well, the news I'm about to break, well, I will be breaking in a little bit, is going to blow your wig back. And again, this is something that came to me over the weekend. I was giving full authority and permission to talk about it. And they want to keep I would imagine Xbox, LucasArts, Bethesda, Machine Games, they want to keep that good news rolling for Indiana Jones. And I want to talk about some of that good news, because it appears, Fuzzy Belvedere, that, well, everyone has something nice to say about Indiana Jones. I want to start off with Digital Foundry, because, we know that they have on many times, or many occasions, I should say, been kind of PlayStation focused, right? Like maybe the stewards of the PlayStation Defense Force at times, right? And interestingly enough, in a year where Final Fantasy VII Rebirth won a bunch of awards, that's a pretty graphical game, to be honest with you. And I thought for sure that would land as their number one. I thought for sure that you would get, maybe Astrobot as their number one. Listen, Astrobot, I'm not going to, make an excuse that I enjoyed the heck out of the game. I don't think it deserved Game of the Year. And I think if Indiana Jones would have been in that awards for 2024, it would have taken basically everything home. It would have mopped everyone up. I really do believe that. But it turns out that the two most visually impressive games of 2024 happen to be Hellblade 2 at number 2, but Indiana Jones in the number 1 spot. That is incredibly impressive. But it goes on to say that, again, like we talked about in the opening, Fuzzy, I really think that Xbox has turned a corner. And I think they just needed that one. And I know that Lord Cognito from the Iron Lords have been asking for years, #+1. Well, I think we got a +2 this year, because Hellblade 2 is a phenomenal title on multiple levels. Graphically, I don't understand how Ninja Theory was able to benchmark Unreal Engine 5, but they did it. And that game, for me, if we're being real here, ladies and gentlemen, was better on every level that was complained about in the original. The combat was better. The story was better. The graphics were leaps and bounds better. The sound, somehow or another, was even better than the original. And the original one was incredible. So all high marks for Ninja Theory, which has me excited for what they're going to do next with Project Mara. I think that's going to be another graphical showpiece and an experience that we're all going to want to play. But I want to focus here, Fuzzy Belvedere, on Indiana Jones, because this seems to be a title that is on everyone's lips, whether it's Games Radar, whether it's Jez Corden talking about it, whether it's Digital Foundry, whether it's IGN. It does seem to be one of those games that is on the short list for many of the journos as their game of the year. And you know what? After 50 plus hours and playing it, who wants to start and start revisiting all the other places where I missed stuff, I can assure you that they are correct. This game is a phenomenal story. It makes you feel like Indiana Jones. And truth of the matter is, I, in my mind, said, I wonder if it would have been better or different in third person. And you know something? Machine Games got it right, because it really does need to be in first person to give you that in the shoes of Indiana Jones type of feeling. But the story that I want to focus on here is, and I'm using Games Radar. So this was posted December 28th. And it says Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was successful enough that Disney reportedly picked up the phone and wants more. Now, if you folks remember, last week I broke a story right here with Fuzzy Belvedere talking about Indiana Jones and its potential trilogy, right? Well, that's starting to make the rounds. Games Radar was one of the places that talked about it. And I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Con Siren posted this 2 days ago from gamesradar.com. And I just want to read like a small snippet from it. And of course, again, this Jez Corden is the source behind this. It says, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle has been a pretty great game, but it's also been seemingly a great success. As rights holder, Disney reportedly wants more Indiana Jones games in the future. That comes courtesy of Windows Central journalist and leaker Jez Corden, who has said he heard that Disney picked up the phone and wants more Indiana Jones games in an episode of the Xbox 2 podcast, weeks after Machine Games and Bethesda launch their own first-person take on the iconic Tomb Raider's adventures. Now, Fuzzy, this is, again, great news, because, of course, more Indiana Jones games means that it was successful financially. It was critically a success. And mind you, it still has to release on a PlayStation or the PlayStation 5 later next year in the spring. Now, I actually think, based on some of the stuff we're hearing about the Switch 2, that this could be ported to the Switch 2 at some point, because supposedly, and again, this is just a rumor, folks, that when it's docked, it's as powerful as an Xbox Series S. When it's outside of it's in handheld mode, it's more powerful than a PS4 Pro. That is the rumor for the Switch. So I think that they might be able to get this game running. And if they do, rest assured, Indiana Jones is going to show up on the Switch 2. And it just makes financial sense. And if that's the case, well, now Disney is making money here, there, and everywhere. But I have a story here that was posted by Ecstasies. Now, Ecstasies is someone I talk about on a regular basis. He was on fire this weekend with story after story after story, and he has tons of industry connections. Well, he posted something regarding Indiana Jones, and I want to read it. He says, not only is Disney thrilled with the performance of Indiana Jones, but the numbers don't lie. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle ranked as second best-selling video game in the United States the week ending of December 14th. It was only surpassed by the sales giant Call of Duty Black Ops 6. This shows that the legendary archaeologist is not only still relevant, but that he can open a good saga in the market, suggesting, Fuzzy, that I'm onto something with my trilogy claim. What does this mean for the future of the franchise, he asks. Jez Corden has already teased that they're not done with Indiana Jones, and with this level of success, it's clear that Disney has big plans. More Indiana Jones games are coming. Well, look, I've made you fine folks wait long enough. So now I'm going to just drop the bomb onto you that was dropped onto me. Now, how did this whole news bomb that I'm about to drop happen? Well, I reached out to my good friend, and they basically said, and what I wasn't asking about Indiana Jones. I was asking about a potential Game Pass drop for the rumored Dev Direct third week into January. I wanted to get some context because, again, thanks to Pong Soul and several people in the DM that we're in, Fuzzy Belvedere, there are all the Transformer games that are available via the app. So it seems like they could very well, in fact, be a huge dump of games going to Activision games going to Game Pass. So I was specifically asking about, is this something that they have heard? And they had no information on that. I'm still waiting for some clarification. But I'm going to read the text directly that was sent to me. This wasn't DM. This is text. So the person that I'm talking about, I know them. So this is why you can bank on that this being true. He says, I do, however, have a tidbit for you regarding Indiana Jones. It turns out not only was there a 3-game deal signed with Disney and Todd Howard, they already have 3 scripts turned in for editing. Story outlines for a trilogy are already written. I did not know that until this weekend. End quote. And there it is, folks. Not only was I correct with the original breaking story about there being a trilogy, apparently, and according to the source that I trust indubitably, they have 3 scripts already turned in for editing, and the story outlines for a complete trilogy in the franchise. Fuzzy, this is big news. This is big news because I personally could not be happier for everyone at Machine Games. I couldn't be happier for Todd Howard of getting this done because he is one of the biggest Indiana Jones fans. And I cannot get again, it's hard not to get excited if you are an Indiana Jones fan, whether you be on Xbox, PlayStation, or PC. Let's get your thoughts.
Well, it definitely fits for what they were saying with spinning up a second team over at Machine Games. Like, you wouldn't just do it if you're just working on the DLC. It seemed like there was definitely a roadmap for more Indiana Jones games. And great news that they had so much success that Disney's like, yep, we want more. So, man, this is going to be a testament on licensed games on Xbox. I know Phil wasn't the biggest fan of that. You know, Blade was probably something that was already in the works, much like Indy was prior to the acquisition. And he kind of has to go with that. You know, you don't want to break a contract with those licensed IPs. So go ahead and do it. And to have this type of success with Indiana Jones to the point where Disney's like, how fast can you make some more? Like, I'm wondering if this is one of those things where they see that how this game was crafted could be something that they could use for the movies that didn't seem to do as well in the box office on the most recent one in comparison. Like this, and a lot of people have already said this would actually be probably a better movie than what they recently released if they, you know, crafted or cut it down to be like for a movie, you know, script and everything. So the fact that this interactive game does so well that Disney is like, definitely get some more of these out there. And for a game that, it missed the cutoff for, you know, the game of the year for, you know, a couple of award shows and things like that. But it's going to get its shine at some of the ones that wait until after January, as far as for looking back at the whole year as a whole for 2024. Yeah. This is awesome. Like, having them have a team that's going to be focused on Wolfenstein, have a team that's focused on Indy, And we could see, and now I know you had made mention before, like when we had like talked about this before we had any confirmation, like, well, what would they do as far as like if they were to release another indie? Would that be another 5 years, 6 years or so? Because they worked on this for a good bit. And I think more and more after hearing your side of it, as far as where, because they've already crafted a lot of the foundation for this game, it's not like they have to go back to the starting line. They could probably get something churned out in 3 or 4 years or something like that. So it could be a faster turnaround. And having this world where you can do more exploration, have a bigger tie-in where, now I haven't rolled credits yet on this one. I'm about halfway through, just about finished with Giza. I have a little bit of a bug I gotta kind of work through because I fast traveled back to burn some of the propaganda posters, so I may have screwed up my own save. But yeah, this game is awesome, and the fact that they're going to make more of them, and this was like a surprise. Like I was not expecting that much from this game. Like honestly, I just figured, okay, first person, Uncharted, or first person Tomb Raider, and it would be a nice experience. I figured, probably be like a 20-hour game, on rails, and it's none of that. I mean, you can speed through if you want to, but there's just so much stuff that you can explore. The visuals, like I shout out to Digital Foundry for recognizing or putting a focus on how they did the ray tracing and the specular lighting and all of the other goodies that you see visually. Whether you're on console, it looks phenomenal on console, but you could spec it up or basically turn up all the bells and whistles based on your PC, and it's even better. Like there's usually not that distinct of a break between them. But yeah, if you have the card and the horsepower in your PC, you can make this thing pretty much look like it's actual, like either photorealism or like a movie, just about, between the lighting and the facial detail and the foliage that you're walking through. And yeah, like I'm so glad that they're making more of these. Like that's another thing to add to the roadmap for Xbox. Like, figure every 3 to 5 years, hey, we got another Indiana Jones mixed in there as well, along with an upcoming Halo, an upcoming Forza, Horizon, and upcoming Gears. And yeah, this is just amazing. So yeah, having a trilogy, I'm happy for Xbox right now. I'm happy for Machine Games, and just happy for my Game Pass subscription. Just having this, day one, being able to play it. This is awesome.
You know what? You're not wrong. But again, I think the picture you're painting really is what's impressive here. Like Indiana Jones comes out, and look, I know Hargeet is in the chat, probably listening, and he's still in his feelings, and he's not wrong for it, about it getting out before December so it could find its way into the Game Awards. Because again, I really do believe this, folks, and I don't think I need Digital Foundry or Games Radar or even Jez Corden to tell me that this game would have not mopped the floor with everything that was out there based on its reception. I don't need anybody to tell me. I played the game. I put over 50 hours in. I completed it. And I got to get back in there to get all the things I missed, as well as mop up the achievements. I do want to, at some point, get 1,000 out of 1,000. That's how much I really enjoyed this game. But as an old school cat who went with his pops back in 1982 to see this film, it's more personal for me. And I've told that story before, that my dad took me to City Cinema in the Bronx, in Co-op City, as a matter of fact. Anybody from the Bronx may or may not even remember that theater. It was a small, old school theater, 2 theaters. That's all it had in it. Not like the big multiplexes that we now have, where it had 72 films. No, it had just 2. And I remember him taking me, and it was just incredible. So to see, I mean, and listen, let's not make a mistake. There's been quite a few Indiana Jones games over the years that people have really enjoyed. But again, this is from Machine Games. They're known for what? First-person shooters that are bombastic and violent. and filled with killing Nazis, right? Who would have thunk that they could have put together an Indiana Jones games that told such an incredible story that it literally made you feel like you were in the film? As a matter of fact, I've seen some people talking about it in the chat that it was done so well that maybe Disney needs to hire these guys to write the next Indiana Jones. I'm just saying, but at this point, Harrison Ford is getting up there. I don't know if he could do it anymore, but I am going to say that this is, as someone who has been a huge fan of Todd Howard for years, really love the work that he's done at Bethesda, have been a fan of Machine Games since they revamped Wolfenstein and made it into this behemoth. Now, mind you, we still don't even have an announcement of the next Wolfenstein, which we know is in active development. See, this is where, as an Xbox fan, you really got to be smiling from ear to ear. There is just so much happening at Xbox Game Studios. I don't even understand how you can't get excited, but keeping it laser focused onto Indiana Jones, I think that we could see a new Indiana Jones. And again, please, this is just an opinion, folks. It's not factoids. But I think 3 to 4 years is pretty much a lock because they have the assets, right? And based on what was given to me over the weekend to talk about, was that they have turned in 3 scripts that are, being reviewed as we speak. And those 3 scripts will eventually be a trilogy. And do they have to take 5 or 6 years? I don't think that they do, Fuzzy Belvedere. I think that they have the graphical assets. I think they know exactly how the gameplay is going to go. Are they going to maybe redefine it possibly? Maybe tweak it a bit? Possibly. But I found absolutely nothing wrong with anything that I played in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And look, even if it takes 3 years, even if it takes 4 years, look how many games are going to be filling in those gaps. And you said it before, we talk about Halo that's coming out, right? Supposedly the rumor is that they're redoing Combat Evolved for a launch in 2026 in Unreal Engine 5. That's a rumor, right? You got Gears E-Day, you got Forza, you have all of these big first-party games, Perfect Dark, you got Fable next year, but in between those games and the next Indiana Jones, you have Starfield DLC, you got continued support with whatever racer they have out, you have continued support in what they're doing in Elder Scrolls Online. You still have to get Elder Scrolls 6. You still got to get Fallout 5. Like, just think about this for a second, folks. It is bonkers how many first-party games and how many first-party franchises that they have ready to release 1 year after another. It is insane. And more Indiana Jones is such a great thing. Like I said, I couldn't be happier for Todd Howard, for Machine Games, for Bethesda. But more specifically, look, LucasArts needs some wins. They have been mucking it up recently, and the last Indiana Jones was not that good. They have basically destroyed Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars is a show, a husk of its former self. And again, the MCU is coming back. Kevin Feige and the gang are going to deliver some big films in the coming years. So the MCU is going to be on its way back to greatness. But this is a big win for LucasArts because they have not had a lot of W's. Any additional commentary on that, Fuzzy?
No, because I think the big thing when it comes to like Lucasfilms, like I'm just waiting for a potential Star Wars announcement. Like I know there was the rumor before when we talked, like what I was talking about with the was it Bethesda Online team, before thinking that it was like a Starfield Online game, potentially being like the Mandalorian or something like that. But man, Lucasfilms definitely needs to, work with Xbox a lot more. I just there's so many studios now. I would love to see, like, there's still the the dream in the back of my mind for like Coalition doing like a Punisher game or something like that with the Marvel IP, things along those lines. But yeah, let's just hope Lucasfilms recognizes overall what Xbox has to offer, and how great they did with this particular IP, and more than likely what what do you call them? I can't remember the name of the studio. The ones that do Deathloop. Oh, crap. But like for Blade.
Yeah, the one that's doing Blade right now.
Yeah.
That is something Lyon. They're out of France.
Yeah. So hopefully those guys, and I'm pretty confident they'll do a bang up job on that as well. But it'd be nice to see more Lucasfilm games, going through some of these first party studios and stuff like that.
Interestingly enough, you made mention of this before, kind of flew under the radar, but I do want to kind of add some additional context to it. We have all heard, and you've heard Phil Spencer talk about the trials and tribulations of third-party usage, especially stuff like Marvel. They're expensive, right? I mean, we know that they've upped their ante. They used to get 25%. Now they're getting 35%. And I'm talking about for Sony and their Spider-Man stuff, right? So Indiana Jones, there's no doubt about it, it was a pretty penny. There's no doubt about it that Blade cost them a pretty penny. But I got to be honest with you here, Fuzzy. Looking at the success of Indiana Jones, looking how quickly LucasArts was on the phone, apparently, with Xbox and Bethesda and Todd Howard to get more Indiana Jones games, I think that there's going to be a lot, I don't think it's additional pressure. I think there was already pressure to deliver a Blade game in third person with the stylized graphics that they were already shown off, right? I think it's safe to say that game is going to look different, and that's what I love about it. It's not going to be your atypical, third person hack and slash. It looks like it's going to have a visual style to it. But Indiana Jones' success, Fuzzy, certainly paves the way, at least in my opinion, to potentially maybe Phil Spencer sees the value of getting IP that's not owned and doing big things with it. What about that, man?
Yeah, I think they definitely. Well, I do apologize because I was trying to see one of the guys in chat was having some difficulty on his 4080 rig. Although the Series X plays the game awesomely,
It does.
So I do apologize for being a little scattered brain here, but I think with Windows 10 it seems to work a little bit smoother than some of the. I refuse to upgrade to Windows 11 until they stop supporting Windows 10, but there is a lot of little tweaking. But overall on the Series X, Indiana Jones looks great. So for those that are bouncing back and forth between PC and console, it's great that our saves continue on and everything.
Yep.
But I guess the big thing is I do like that there are, even though it's not optimized as well for NVIDIA, there is a more recent update as far as the chipset that helps. Now, his being a 40 series card, he should have frame gen. That's the one thing my 3080 lacks. So hopefully that makes a bit of a difference for him. But yeah, right now mine is not running with any stutters. It's just that I do have a bug because after what's his name, Stein, showed that you can burn some of the propaganda maps.
Yeah,
I did the fast travel, and I think that broke my game. But I'll get it figured out at some point. But no, overall, as far as how these studios are, I think the big thing is they've taken the time to polish these games in a way and optimize them in a way that is key to these consoles, and they're getting better on the optimization for the PC. I know they lean in most cases heavier on AMD, but I'm more of an NVIDIA fan. Not to have video card wars or anything like that, but yeah, I think looking at what Arcane is going to be working on with Blade, looking at what Machine Games will continue to do with Indiana Jones, that stylized look, I think fits for that game, and I'm really excited to see what that looks like in the final form. I know someone that's had some insight on it and said, it's still early, but it's going to be mind blowing, above and beyond what fans of like the Dishonored series, or even those. I'm probably one of the few fans of Deathloop, but even fans of Deathloop, it's going to go far and beyond that like stylized look and stuff. But like how Machine Games did Indiana Jones, where it's pretty close to photorealism, but not, they didn't go that extra mile, but they did a lot of the smaller things, but the lighting, the facial expressions, the mocap. And I think that's going to be the big thing with Troy Baker, bringing him back for the second one. He nailed that character. He nailed it. So it'll be interesting to see if they can make him or have him dialed up for the movie, if Disney decides that Harrison Ford getting up there in age, have him as the alternative. I don't know if that's within his wheelhouse to want to do that, but considering the bang up job he did for the voice acting and the mocap and stuff like that, I think he can definitely pull it off. But yeah, it's that stylized look for Arcane. Love how it looked. Can't wait to see it. And I think the talents of these first party studios is bar none. Like, they always talked about how PlayStation's look was the premium experience, or the photorealism and stuff like that.
Film, it has an aura to it. Their first party games, it does. Listen, I take nothing away from them. Their games, even though a lot of people condemn them for being samey, you got to admit their games are gorgeous.
Yeah, but keep in mind, Xbox Studios, they've been critiquing, well, not critiquing them, but looking in, reviewing those as a standard to base on. And it definitely shows when you look at games like Hellblade, but then now you hear some of their studios are looking at things like Hellblade for their benchmark moving forward. So that's going to be an interesting back and forth. But I love how these games look from Xbox's first party studios, and man, I'm still excited over the fact that it's a trilogy that we're going to get to play here soon. So, man, this is awesome.
Well, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, folks, I will say this, because again, we're at the the 60-minute mark. We already talked about the two topics. I think we put a good dent into it. If you have not played, I'll say this: there are a lot of people holding out for Indiana Jones. I don't know why. Maybe because you don't have the time. That I believe. I don't have time. That's why I've been sticking with G.I. Joe. I bought Power Rangers. I watched a couple of videos of it. Looks phenomenal. I just don't have enough time. That's why I've been playing Call of Duty, because you can get in, play 6 matches, and at least you feel like you're satisfied. I have not had a chance. It's just the holiday just got on top of us so quickly. I just haven't had the time. And I will say that if you are holding out for Indiana Jones because maybe you don't think it's your thing, you should definitely give it a try. I really, really, from my heart, believe that even if you are in the camp that you thought Lara Croft or Nathan Drake were the first Tomb Raiders, and that's the era that you grew up in, I hear you. We all can't grow up in the Atari 2600 era and then move forward. I get that, but you should definitely give this game a shot. I think you're going to be incredibly impressed. It is, I put it this way, if you are a fan of the films, this is a game you cannot miss. It may not be your game of the year per se, but it's definitely going to be a game that you're going to look back and say, my God, this feels like the film. So if you're waiting, don't wait anymore. Be a part of the conversation, because everyone is talking about this. And I got news for you. I really, really think that once we get into the new year and you start to see the publications from the different media sources, a good portion of these media sources who have had the horns for Xbox for years are going to be talking up Indiana Jones, and it's a good shot that this game is going to be game of the year for many of them. Now, does that remove all the stink from them for all the years of ridiculousness? No, and it doesn't make them right, wrong, or indifferent. It just goes to show you that as quickly as they are willing to poo-poo an Xbox game or an Xbox exclusive, it goes to show you how good of a game this actually is. That they're looking past the bias and and actually picking this as their game of the year. That has me very excited, and I really think that there's going to come a point, especially next year, that there's going to be so many Xbox first-party studio games that they're just going to have to bend the knee to giving these games a fair review. Again, that's just my take on it. But let me just catch up on these last super chats and we'll get everyone out of here. It says, Sith Lord drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, 2025, no podcast, no work, no life, only Xbox games. Indeed. Well, we don't want to lose you on the podcast, brother. But yeah, thank you so much for the generosity. Will Broke Boy Lewis drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, still waiting for you to play some Call of Duty. Boom, brother. I get on, like I stayed up last night and I played, I think maybe 6 games because they had the double XP weekend. I don't know if it's still going on. We definitely got to hook up for sure. We had a lot of fun the last time. Chris in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat. And this is interesting. If we're being real, the fact that Indiana Jones is coming out on PlayStation next year means it will almost certainly be at the Game Awards 2025. You know, Chris, that's a fantastic point. On paper, that sounds like it's almost a lock. The problem with that, though, is that there are only so many spaces and there are so many games coming out next year. I mean, look, if we're looking, Grand Theft Auto 6 is expected to come out next year. Do I think it's going to? No. I think that's going to fall into 2026 as well, but that's a game to come out next year. You also have all of the onslaught. You have Doom, which is going to be a game potentially in the Game of the Year conversation. You have The Outer Worlds 2. You have South of Midnight, which is looking spectacular every time we see it. You know, you have the potential of a remake of Oblivion in Unreal Engine 5. I mean, that game, if that comes out, does that game get into the Game of the Year? Fable. If Fable does make it next year, could that be a Game of the Year contender? So it's, I mean, like I said, I definitely want to see Troy Baker get his flowers for his portrayal of Indiana Jones. He literally was the embodiment of Harrison Ford. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there were times where even if you closed your eyes and you knew it was him, it didn't feel like him. It literally felt like Harrison Ford. I mean, it just was incredible. I would like to see him, and he'll probably get nominated because it's Jeff's show, and well, Jeff is going to do. And don't get me wrong, I think Jeff does chop this up, so to speak, because it's on PlayStation the same way he did when he announced it. You know, he was like, "Oh yeah, you know, it's this that. Oh, it's going to PlayStation." You know, that was a last minute thing, right? So it is what it is. But I do hope that this game does at some point get its flowers for its graphics, for its story, for its gameplay, and more importantly, for its voice acting. The voice acting from everyone was freaking phenomenal. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us here today. Hopefully, you enjoyed the show. To hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. We are on the hunt for 16K, and we would definitely appreciate you if you help us get there. We're almost at the 15.5 mark, which means that we would need less than 500 to make the 16K. That's obviously going to happen in 2025, which we're looking forward to. But Fuzzy Belvedere, let's sell the brand, but not just your brand. Obviously, folks, you've been hanging out with us long enough to know that Fuzzy's YouTube channel, and it needs some subscribers. So if you're not already subscribed, please, for the love of the gaming gods, subscribe to this man. His channel is the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre. And of course, follow him on the socials. But the wife, the missus, has a horror channel known to be out on Friday evenings called Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fridays. Please check that out. Subscribe to her as well. Fuzzy, sell the brand, brother. Where can people subscribe to both? And more importantly, follow you both on the socials.
Well, greatly appreciate you having me on. Always love doing this on Monday afternoons. Just love the fact we got some breaking news with the trilogy for Indiana Jones. And just, State of Decay. I love State of Decay too. Just probably, I think that was like, I wouldn't say it was my game of the year last year, but it was the game of the most played game for me this year. So definitely looking forward to State of Decay 3. But for those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, you can always find me on social media, whether it's Twitter or X or whatever you choose to call it these days, Instagram, YouTube, Blue Sky, Threads. Just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere. Just how it's spelled, as you see my name on the listing under me and stuff. And also, if you're into horror, whether it's horror games or horror movies, definitely give my wife a follow, Ferocious Fee. I'm going to drop the link for her YouTube, Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. Basically, every Friday around 6, we talk about a horror movie. Some of them, fresh out of the theaters. Some of the other ones are, some of the classics, and we give our thoughts and opinions on them, and even compare them to some of their, other movies in the series or other horror movies in that same genre and stuff. So Fright Night with Ferocious Fee every Friday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check us out. Greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate the support, everyone. And don't forget, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Awesome if you do so. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for checking this out.
Well, thank you for being here each and every Monday and Friday. There will be, of course, there will be a show tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Myself, Infinite Umbra, and Jamie Moran. We have a couple of stories that we're going to get into, all Xbox related, because, well, it's the Xbox Factor podcast. There will not be a show, obviously, on Wednesday because that is a New Year's Day. And I'll be back at it on Thursday afternoon with C Money. He has confirmed that he's going to be joining me as well for our Thursday edition of the X Vlog Live. And, of course, back Friday morning on Breakfast with Boom. So we're only missing one show this week, and that is for New Year's Day. We'll be back at it the day after on Thursday and Friday. And, again, a big thank you to all of the super chats that come in on a regular basis, the channel memberships that support the channel behind the scenes. Mrs. Boom and I are incredibly grateful for that. And, of course, I want to thank everyone that took the time to hang out with us here today and close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, folks. Hopefully one day be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.